जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा जय गिरिवर धारी जय गिरिवर धारी जय यशोदा नंद जय गजन रंजना जय यशोदानंद जय गजन रंजना जय यशोदा नंदना जय गजन रंजना जय यशोदानंदना जय गजन रंजना जय यमुना तिरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी 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 हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नाम संकीर्तन की जय जगन्नाथ बलस्वर माई की जय नरसिंह भगवान की जय पंचतत्व की जय षड गोस्वामी की जय गुरु परंपरा की जय गुरुदेव की जय टैगोर प्रेम हरि बोल
हरि बोल।
ओ हरे कृष्ण
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very midst of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God Narayana, unto Narayana, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcends the songs, is established as a right of good fact. So Hare Krishna, we'll just today from Srimad Bhagavatam, in this series, we are discussing from first canto, 10th chapter, the second half, that is from verse number 19 to 36. There are 36 verses in this chapter. So last week, it was up to 18, verse number 18 was taken. So we will continue with the 19th till 36th verse. Om Gyantivrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manoavishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamahyam Dadadi Supadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapatakamallam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sagana Raghunatamitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saganalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna's Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Namami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhescha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Ditana Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravatavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yanta Pravishyam Mavacham Imam Prasuptam Sanjeevayati Aklashakti Dharaswadam Anyam Hasta Charana Shravanatu Gadin Prana Namo Bhagavate Purushaya Tabhyam Namo Shri Vishnu Vishnu Putrishnu Mahashka Swami Pranade Namo Shri Vishnu Vishnu Putrishnu Tigran Swami So we'll just recite this 19th verse and then we'll discuss the whole chapter. Ashruyanta Shishav Satyas Tatra Tatra Dvijeritaha Nanurupascha Nirgunasya Gunatmana Ashruya Yanta Shishav Satyas Tatra Tatra Dvijeritaha Nanurupascha Nirgunasya Gunatmana. So here it is, the translation is said, it was being heard here and there that the benedictions being paid to Krishna were neither befitting nor unbefitting because they were all for the Absolute, who was now playing the part of a human being. So we'll discuss, just to give a glimpse of the chapter so far. See, after the Kurukshetra war, Maharaj Yudhishthira felt very devastated. Why? To see crores of dead bodies in the battlefield. The mere thought that such a massive number of deaths had occurred just for his sake, for regaining the throne, haunted him a lot. He felt very guilty and thought that no amount of prayaschitta can nullify his sins or bring back the happiness to the remaining citizens of the kingdom. So at that time, Lord Krishna, Vyasadeva, and many others, they tried to pacify him by saying that the war was fought based on religious principles. And there is nothing wrong on the part. In fact, on his part, on Yudhishthira's part. But still, by Krishna's arrangement, Yudhishthira Maharaj continues to be despondent. Then Krishna takes him to Bhishma Deva, who was lying on a bed of arrows. And in that precarious condition also, Bhishma Deva, with the grace of the Supreme Lord, is able to clarify all the doubts of Yudhishthira Maharaj. So that's why we saw in the third verse, Maharaj Yudhishthira, after being enlightened by what was spoken by Bhishma Deva and Lord Krishna, the infallible, engaged himself in matters of perfect knowledge because all his misgivings were eradicated. Thus he ruled over the earth and seas and was followed by his younger brothers. See the words Bhishmoktam, Achyutoktam, and Ajitashraya. In this verse are all worth meditating. Now Yudhishthira Maharaj listened to the words spoken by Bhishma Dev and Achyuta. He always took shelter of the infallible Lord Krishna. And therefore, he was enlightened and was able to engage himself in matters of perfect knowledge. So this is the secret of success in the material as well as spiritual lives. See, many times we also come across a very perplexing situation, no? And succumb to the modes of material nature. And in all such situations, if we take the shelter of right authorities, then we would also be able to get rid of this despondency, which Yudhishthira Maharaj had. But he got rid of it. So demigods also always turn to Brahma for consultation whenever they face some difficulty. See, in the third canto, 17th chapter, first verse of Bhagavatam, Prabhupada very nicely mentions the difference between the demigods and the ordinary human being is that the demigods approach authority, whereas the inhabitants of this earth defy authority. If people would only approach the authority, then every adverse condition in this universe could be rectified. See, Arjuna was also disturbed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But he approached the authority, Krishna, and his problem was solved. See, the conclusive instruction of this incident is that we may be disturbed by some material condition. But if we approach the authority who can actually explain the matter, then our problem is solved. See, nowadays, we find that people, instead of approaching the authority to find out the solution to the problems of life, they make their lives and others' lives also more miserable by resorting to so many unwanted things, suicide. So, Prabhupada very nicely says in the first canto, 9th chapter, 12th verse, as long as a person is fully in cooperation with the wishes of the Lord, guided by the bona fide Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and strictly following religious principles, one has no cause for despondency, however trying the circumstances of life. It's a very encouraging statement by Prabhupada. So let us all remember the glorious examples of Arjuna, Yudhishthira Maharaj, and the demigods, and always take shelter of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, and free ourselves from the clutches of despondency. See, in the 5th verse, while explaining the glories of Maharaj Yudhishthira to the sages of Naimisharanya, Suta Goswami says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the rivers, oceans, hills, mountains, forests, creepers, and active drugs in every season paid the tax quota to the king in profusion. See, in Kunti Maharani's prayers, also we can see Kunti Maharani very nicely prays in 1:8:40, first canto, 8th chapter, 40th verse. All these cities and villages are flourishing in all respects because the herbs and grains are all in abundance. The trees are full of fruits. The rivers are flowing. The hills are full of minerals, and the oceans full of wealth. And this is all due to your glancing over them. Just by the glance of the Lord, everything is flourishing. So Mother Kunti was never proud of her children's valor and strength. Being a pure devotee, she could very well understand that all their success was due to Krishna's mercy. That's why in this purport of 1:8:40, Prabhupada very nicely says, all these natural gifts are dependent on the mercy of the Lord. What we need, therefore, is to be obedient to the laws of the Lord and achieve the perfection of human life by devotional service. See, Mother Nature, she was pleased with the good qualities of Maharaj Yudhishthira, and so ensured that all the natural resources, be it water bodies or land or trees, everything flourished and bloomed in his kingdom. And Prabhupada explains the secret of Yudhishthira Maharaj's success in this verse of 1:10:5. So Yudhishthira Maharaj ruled the kingdom according to the instructions received from Bhishma Deva and the infallible Lord. Now, since he was obedient to the Lord, as well as his pure devotee, Bhishma Deva, all his attempts were successful. Please hear this statement. The secret to success is to take refuge under the protection of the Supreme Lord. Now, without his sanction, nothing can be possible. See, Prabhupada says to make economic development by our own endeavors on the strength of tools and machinery is not at all possible. The sanction of the Supreme Lord must be there. Otherwise, despite all the instrumental arrangements, everything will be unsuccessful. The ultimate cause of success is Daiva, the Supreme. So kings like Maharaj Yudhishthira knew perfectly well the king is the agent of the Supreme Lord to look after the welfare of the mass of people. We think we are the people who are handling. No, it's all mercy of the Lord. Actually, the state belongs to the Supreme Lord. A good king protects the citizens both materially and spiritually. And by his own personal example, Yudhishthira Maharaj taught the citizens about the codes of religion. So considering himself as an agent or trustee of the Lord, he ruled the kingdom without any sense of proprietorship. And when Yudhishthira Maharaj heard about the departure of Kṛṣṇa to Goloka, he immediately handed over the kingdom to Parikshit Maharaj and left for the forest. See, neither he nor his brothers think that they could continue ruling for a few more years. He was never inimical to others, and so he was glorified as Ajata Shatru. Although the Kauravas, Dhritarashtra, etc., they considered the Pandavas as their deadly enemy, Maharaj Yudhishthira was also respectful and loving in his dealings with them. In fact, even when Duryodhana was in danger, Yudhishthira Maharaj never hesitated to help him. See, there is full cooperation between man and God and man and nature. And this conscious cooperation between man and God and man in nature, as it is exemplified by King Yudhishthira, can bring about happiness, peace, and prosperity in the world. So the attitude of exploiting one another, which is a custom of the day, will only bring misery. See, these statements are very much true and very practical. So when we live in harmony with each other and surrender to Krishna, everything else falls in place. See, in the 19th verse, which your translation says, it was being heard here and there, the benedictions being paid to Krishna were neither befitting nor unbefitting, because they were on for the Absolute, who was now playing the part of a human being. So Prabhupada says, at places there were sounds of Vedic benediction aiming at the personality of God, Sri Krishna. The benedictions were fitting in the sense that God was playing the part of a human being, as if a cousin of Maharaj Yudhishthira. But they are also unfitting because the Lord is absolute and has nothing to do with any kind of material relativities. Because he is nirguna. There are no material qualities in him. He is full of transcendental qualities. See, in the 20th verse, he says, absorbed in the thought of the transcendental qualities of the Lord, who is sung in select poetry, the ladies on the roof of all the houses of Hastinapura began to talk of him. This talk was more attractive than the hymns of the Vedas. See, in the Bhagavad Prabhupada says, in the purport, no? In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that in all the Vedic literatures, the goal is the personality of God, Sri Krishna. Very important for us to understand. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that all the Vedic literatures' goal is personality of God, Sri Krishna. Actually, the glories of the Lord are depicted in such literatures as Vedas, Ramayana, Mahabharata. Correct. So in the Bhagavatam, they are specifically mentioned in respect to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, while the ladies on the top of the houses in the capital of the kings of the Kuru dynasty were talking about the Lord, their talk was more pleasing than the Vedic hymns. So Prabhupada says anything sung in the praise of the Lord is Shruti Mantra. Now, why this material world is called Tama? Because everyone is in ignorance. He does not know what is the value of life. Just like big scientists, they are theorizing that life is made out of matter. How much ignorance it is. Human life is meant for knowledge. That's a fact. Therefore, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. And what knowledge? Knowledge does not mean how to eat, how to sleep, how to have sex life, and how to defend. That is not knowledge. See, these things are there in the animals. Animals also know very well how to eat, how to sleep, how to have sex life, and how to defend. No, that is not the knowledge. Human life is meant for different business. And that is Brahma Jigyasa. So Brahma Jigyasa, if one begins the life of Brahma Jigyasa, and when it ends in understanding Krishna, that is perfection of life. That is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. That is Bhagavad Gita 7.19. One who is actually Jnanavan in knowledge, such a person. See, actually, Krishna is everything. Krishna is the cause of all causes. This is the summary statement. Sarva Karana Karanam. Ishvara Paramaha Krishna Satchidananda Vikraha Nadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Brahma Samhita 5.1. So in the 21st verse, see, according to the translation, see, they said, here he is, the original personality of Godhead, as we definitely remember him. He alone existed before the manifested creation of the modes of nature, and in him only, because he is the Supreme Lord, all living beings merge as if sleeping at night, their energy suspended. See, according to the Vedas, the Lord is the only person who exists after annihilation. The Lord is the only person who exists after annihilation, when the complete material manifestation is wound up. So according to the scriptures, creation and annihilation occur in cyclic manner, one followed by another. So he only exists before the next creation, and hence he is called the cause of all causes. Sarva Karana Karanam. See, there are many arguments in modern science and religion as to who is the cause of all causes and who exists before creation. But the scriptures and great acharyas explain that Lord Hari is the ultimate cause of everything, and hence he befits the word Purusha in the fullest sense. It's a very a very good incident mentioned in the Vedic mantras in relation to this. It says, in the beginning of creation, everything was completely causal water. In that, Lord Brahma appeared before the lotus of the navel. At that time, Lord Brahma saw a huge tortoise sporting in the causal waters. Now, Lord Brahma, he could not recognize the Lord who is in Kurma form. So he told the tortoise, looks like you have appeared after me. Brahma is telling the tortoise. The tortoise replied, no, I have been existing for time immemorial. Since the Lord has been existing in this way from time immemorial, even prior to the creation, he is called a Purusha. It's a very nice incident which occurred several thousand years ago, which demonstrates that Lord Vishnu is a primeval Purusha. In South India, there lived a great devotee by the name Vishnu Chittar. He had a beautiful flower garden, and his regular service was to make flower gardens for the Lord Vatapatra Sai, the Lord who sleeps on the banyan leaf after the dissolution. So that time, South India was ruled by Pandya kings. And the king was walking in the nights to know how the citizens feel about his administration. He was walking in disguise so that people don't know, but just to know. So one night, the king came across a Brahmana who returned from Kashi, and he asked the Brahmana what he learned in Kashi. The Brahmana replied that he learned that one should work for an eternal life by living in this world, and this is possible by realizing the absolute truth, which is the cause of all causes. So the next day, the king announced for a big philosophical conference, wherein he invited many Vedic scholars, followers of various philosophy, and scientists to assert who is the cause of all causes and how to attain that. So what did he do? He tied a bag full of gold coins on a huge pole and said, whoever establishes the supreme truth without doubt will be eligible for that prize. That night, the Lord appeared in the dream of Vishnu Chittar, and he ordered him to attend the conference. But Vishnu Chittar said he is not a scholar of Vedas. He cannot face great scholars there. He prayed for the Lord's mercy to follow the order. The Lord fully blessed him and said, you will be victorious. Next day, Vishnu Chittar went to the king's assembly. In that conference, the various scholars and philosophers presented different theories and conclusions. And when they were critically questioned by others, at some point, everyone fumbled and failed to give convincing answers. At last, Vishnu Chittar was given a chance by the Lord's grace, and so he profusely quoted from Vedas, Itihasas and Puranas, and firmly established the Lord Hari as the cause of all causes, source of all creation. And he is the absolute truth. And surrendering to him is the best means of securing eternal life. So everyone present there, they were spellbound by his explanation and left speechless. And they agreed to his conclusion. So as a proof of his speech, the pole to which the bag of gold coins bent down and the bag of gold coins showered on Vishnu Chittar. So seeing this miracle, the king was pleased with Vishnu Chittar and declared him as the king of all scholars in his kingdom and arranged for taking him in the royal elephant procession. See, the truth of this pastime is also confirmed in Bhagavatam Puran by the ladies of Hastinapura, who were speaking the Lord's glories when Lord Kṛṣṇa was about to leave for Dvārakā. The women of Hastinapura identified Kṛṣṇa to be the supreme Purusha, who existed before everything and the cause of all causes. See, there's a beautiful in the verse. They said, here he is the original personality of Godhead, as we definitely remember him. This is the 21st verse. He alone existed before the manifest creation of the modes of nature, and in him only, because he is the Supreme Lord, all living is merged as if sleeping at night, their energy suspended. So Prabhupada, the purport says, the living beings remain asleep within the body of the Lord until there is another creation of the material world. And that is the way of creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the material manifestation. The material creation is affected by the interaction of the three modes of material nature set in action by the Lord. And therefore, it is said that the Lord existed before the modes of material nature were set in motion. So he is the cause of all causes. So in the 22nd verse, it says, the personality of Godhead, again desiring to give names and forms to his parts and parcels, the living entities placed under the guidance of material nature. By his own potency, material nature is empowered to recreate. See, in the purport, Prabhupada, the living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord. We are all parts. Mama Ivam Shuji Veloki, Kṛṣṇa says in Bhagavad Gita. So there are two varieties, namely Nitya Mukta and Nitya Baddha. The Nitya Muktas are eternally liberated souls, and they are eternally engaged in the reciprocation of transcendental loving service with the Lord in his eternal abode beyond the manifested mundane creations. But Nitya Baddha, we are all Nitya, eternally conditioned souls, are entrusted to his external energy Maya. For what? For rectification of their rebellious attitude towards the Supreme Father. See, the 23rd verse says, here is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose transcendental form is experienced by the great devotees who are completely cleansed of material consciousness by dint of rigid devotional service and full control of life and the senses. That is the only way to purify existence. Very clearly specified by here by Prabhupada, no, the translation. Same Lord, whose transcendental form is experienced by great devotees who are completely cleansed of material consciousness. How it is being cleansed? By rigid devotional service and full of control of life and senses. And only this is the only way to purify our existence. See the 24th verse. Oh dear friends, here is that very personality of Godhead, whose attractive and confidential pastimes are described in the confidential parts of Vedic literature by his great devotees. It is he only who creates, maintains, and annihilates the material world, and yet remains unaffected. Very important shlokas in Bhagavatam, the seed verses. There are 4 Chatushloki verses in Bhagavad Gita and 4 in Bhagavatam. So there he says, he is the source. Everything, see in Bhagavad Gita he says, I am Ham Sarvasya Prabhu. Everything emanates from me. I am the source of everything material and spiritual. Same way, Bhagavatam, everything before the creation, during maintenance, and after annihilation also is still there. So, and he is not affected by all these material modes of nature and all, right? So, as it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, all the Vedic literatures are glorifying the greatness of Lord Kṛṣṇa. And it's confirmed in Bhagavatam also. The Vedas are expanded by many branches and sub-branches by great devotees and empowered incarnations of the Lord like Vyasa, Narada, Shukadeva Goswami, Kumaras, Kapila, Prahlada, Janaka, Bali Maharaj, and Yamaraj. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, especially, confidential parts of his activities are described by the confidential devotee Shukadeva Goswami. So the 25th verse is, whenever there are kings and administrators living like animals in the lowest modes of existence, the Lord in his transcendental form manifests in his supreme power, the truth positive, shows special mercy to the faithful, performs wonderful activities, and manifests various transcendental forms as is necessary in different periods and ages. So when a religion takes place, he comes down, right? Paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. See in the 26th verse, the translation says, oh, how supremely glorified is the dynasty of King Yadu, and how virtuous is the land of Mathura, where the supreme leader of all living beings, the husband of the goddess of fortune, has taken his birth and wandered in his childhood. The whole childhood pastimes in Vrindavana, correct? See, in this purport, Prabhu says, in the Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Goddess Sri Kṛṣṇa has expressively given a description of his transcendental appearance, disappearance, and activities. The Lord appears in a particular family or place by his inconceivable potency. Please hear, see, he does not take his birth as conditioned soul, quits his body and accepts another body. His birth is like the appearance and disappearance of the sun. This example, Prabhupada gives wonderful example for even a person who doesn't know Sanskrit or any Vedas, nothing, no need. But very simple example he makes us understand. So please hear very carefully. His birth is like the appearance and disappearance of the sun. The sun arises on the eastern horizon, but that does not mean that the eastern horizon is the parent of the sun. The sun is existent in every part of the solar system, but it becomes visible at a scheduled time, and so also becomes invisible at another scheduled time. Similarly, the Lord appears in this universe like the sun, and again leaves our sight at another time. He exists at all times, and at every place. But by his causeless mercy, when he appears before us, we take it for granted that he has taken his birth. So anyone who can understand this truth in terms of the statements of revealed scriptures certainly becomes liberated just after quitting the present body. The 27th translation, undoubtedly it is wonderful that Dvārakā has defeated the glories of the heavenly planets and has enhanced the celebrity of the earth. The inhabitants of Dvārakā are always seeing the soul of all living beings, Kṛṣṇa, in his loving feature. He glances at them and favors them with sweet smiles. So even the demigods would love to come to this earth, right? Because the Krishna's pastime is so wonderful. They would love to be part of that pastimes. They would love to hear his pastimes. We should always have the eagerness and enthusiasm to always have the Kṛṣṇa Katha, day in and day out. Then Krishna will, and then thereby we get purified and we can welcome Krishna into our homes. So in the 28th verse, it says, "Oh friends, just think of his wives, whose hands he has accepted. How they must have undergone vows, bath, fire, sacrifices, as perfect worship of the Lord of the universe to constantly relish now the nectar from his lips by kissing. See, damsels of Rajabhumi would often faint just by expecting such favors." Coming to the 29th verse, very important verse. The children of these ladies are Pradyumna, Samba, Amba. Ladies like Rukmini, Satyabhama, and Jambavati were forcibly taken away by him from their Swayamvara ceremonies after he defeated many powerful kings, headed by Shishupala. And other ladies were also forcibly taken away by him after he killed Bhaumasura and thousands of his assistants. So all of these ladies are glorious. See, Madhurashtakam, everybody would have heard about Madhurashtakam, right? The Lord of sweetness. See, we should meditate on the glories as described by Sri Vallabhacharya in the 8th stanza of this Ashtakam. Phalitam Madhuram. So, see, Phalitam means fruit. It is in the air. Phalitam means fruitfulness. Phal means benedictions of fruits. So, whoever whoever worships Supreme Lord are definitely assured of some fruits of benedictions. That's why in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in 9.22 verse, Ananya Chintayanto Mam Yejana Paryupasate Tesha Nitya Viyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So the kind of fruits Krishna rewards is purely as per his will. It need not necessarily be what we desire for. We desire something, if we don't get, we get disappointed, right? So it not necessarily be like that. This is, see, it's because we are influenced by moods. Many times we desire for things which we don't deserve or which are harmful for us. Now, since Krishna is omniscient and loving Father, with great compassion, he blesses whatever is best for us. This is what Arjuna also prayed for, no? In the second 2.7 verse in Bhagavad Gita. Karpanya dosho. That is, He said, Krishna, I am totally bewildered, confused. I don't know what to do. Right? So please instruct me what is beneficial for me. So Krishna blesses us whatever is best for us, not what we want. See, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam is a fact. It is not what you want to hear. It is something which is you must hear. So for pure devotees who render him unmotivated, loving devotional service and surrender his life, the Lord reciprocates to them much more beyond any expectations, even though they don't ask for it. See, just like the Krishna's glories, his names, pastimes, they're all unlimited. There are unlimited instances for Lord's fruitfulness. So let us take two examples. First one is Sudama. See, Lord Krishna not only gave a warm reception to Sudama. He came to Dvārakā, right? Sudama, from Porbandar. But he gave a very warm reception. But another important thing you should understand is the Lord also lovingly snatched and ate the morsel of chipped rice which Sudama had brought as gift to the Lord, but was hesitant to give him. Krishna accepts only the loving mood and with which his dear devotees make any offering. When we offer bhoga, no, with the loving mood with which we offer, the loving mood with which we cook the prasadam, the bhoga, right? That is more important. That's what Yashoda Mata teaches us in the Damodar pastime. She makes the buttermilk and everything, singing the glories of the Lord, making bhajans, all the pastimes. So you're completely absorbed when you are cooking. So that mood Krishna loves. And with that offering, he really loves with those offerings. Krishna knew both the mental and financial condition of his dear friend Sudama. He was not a millionaire, right? He considered, Krishna, see how wonderful. Look, Krishna considers that it is not possible for him to give anything equal to the loving offering of the chipped rice. Can we imagine this? So considering himself incapable of reciprocating the love of Sudama, the Lord changed the hut of Sudama to a palatial building with so many servants, valuable jewelry. Prabhupada very nicely writes in the 81st chapter of Krishna book, what the devotee actually offers the Lord is not needed by the Lord. Please hear, what the devotee actually offers the Lord is not needed by the Lord because he is self-sufficient. And if the devotee offers something to the Lord, it acts for his own interest because whatever a devotee offers the Lord comes back in a quantity of 1,000,000 times greater than what was offered. One does not become a loser by giving to the Lord. One becomes a gainer by millions of times. See, when the demon Narakasura kidnapped 16,100 wives, princesses, they prayed to Lord Krishna to come and rescue them from the clutches of the demon. So Srila Prabhupada nicely mentions this sweet pastime in the purport of Bhagavatam 1:10-29. That is the one which we are reciting this current verse. There were 16,100 beautiful girls. Yeah, okay, sorry. So there are 16,100 princesses, no? So Bhagavatam says they were daughters of many kings and were forcibly stolen by Bhamasura, who kept them captive for his own desires. So these girls prayed piteously to Lord Krishna for their deliverance. And the merciful Lord, called by their fervent prayer, released them all by fighting and killing Bhamasura. So all these captive princesses were then accepted by the Lord as his wives. Although in the estimation of society, they were all fallen girls. So the all-powerful Lord Krishna accepted the humble prayers of these girls and married them with the adoration of queens. So another example we can take is Dhruva Maharaj. How Dhruva Maharaj approached the Lord? He approached the Lord as advised by his mother and later by Narada Muni. Though his initial intent was to get more powerful kingdom than his father upon having darshan of the Lord. He felt bad for hankering for material opulence. Once he had the darshan, initially it was his material desire. The moment he had darshan of the Lord, then see, when he did a very, as per Narada Muni's instructions, he was giving wonderful meditations he was doing. So ultimately, within a short period, he could have the darshan of the Lord. But the moment the Lord, he was a 5-year-old boy, the moment he saw the Lord, he wanted to say some prayers, he wanted to glorify the Lord, but nothing came to him. And the Lord, as a Paramatma, he knew. So what did he do? He took his conch and just touched these temples. The moment he touched, wonderful prayers came. Dhruva prayers. You can read in Bhagavatam, beautiful prayers. And one of them is Yonta Pravishya. The moment he touched, no, this is the prayer. Yonta Pravishya Mamavacham Imam Prasuptam Sanjeevayati Akila Shakti Daraswadhamnam Nanyam Chahasta Charana Shravana Twagadin Prana Namo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam. So he approached the Lord as advised by his mother and later Narada Muni for material things. So later, Dhruva says, "Oh my Lord, because I was seeking an opulent material position, I was performing severe types of penance and austerity. Now I have gotten you, who are very difficult for the great demigods. Saintly persons and kings also, it is very difficult for them to attain. So I was searching after a piece of glass, but instead I have found a most valuable jewel. Therefore, I am so satisfied that I do not wish to ask any benediction from you. The moment you have the darshan, you don't want anything else." Krishna, see, not only bestowed Dhruva Maharaj with material opulence, but also gave him the rarest jewel of Krishna Prema. This is the power of Lord's fruitfulness. When we go to the Lord, we should have full conviction that whatever he gives is the best blessing for our spiritual advancement. Even if he decides to give us material opulences, we should always be grateful to him and engage those fruits in Lord's service. For he is the cause of all sweetness in the three worlds. So this is the beauty of the Lord. In the 30th verse, it says, all these women auspiciously glorified their lives despite their being without individuality and without purity. Their husbands, the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead, never left them alone at home. He always pleased their hearts by making valuable presentations. So this is a point we should note, right? We should present. All the grihasthas, many of them are grihasthas, right? You make them pleased by presentations. So nowadays we have all the online. So online also we can order the gifts, offer them, right? To make them pleased. See, the devotees of the Lord are purified souls. As soon as the devotees, they surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord sincerely, the Lord accepts them. And thus the devotees at once become free from all material contaminations. So many of us are still in the process of purifying our existence. And this can be done only by recitation of prayers, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chanting of the mantras and all the package, the whole package which Prabhupada has given, right from morning, the Mangalarti, till night when we go to bed. So much, you could have seen yesterday in the Janmashtami festival, so much engagement. Each person was engaged in different activities. But the ultimate goal is to glorify the Lord. Welcome the Lord. So wonderful. Then you can be free of all the material contamination. In fact, yesterday, the whole day, we were never thinking of anything material. Completely transcendent. So such devotees are above the three modes of material nature. There is no bodily disqualification of a devotee, just as there is no qualitative difference between the Ganges water and the filthy drain water when they are amalgamated. See, women, merchants, and laborers are not very intelligent. Prabhupada is saying in the purport. Thus, it is very difficult for them to understand the science of God or to be engaged in the devotional service of God. He says they are more materialistic, and less than them are the Kiratas, Hunas, Andharas, Pulindas, Pulkashas, Abhiras, Kankas, Yavanas, and Kasas. But all of them can be delivered if they are properly engaged in the devotional service for Lord. See how many times we have read this, no? Engaged in devotional service for loving devotional service for Lord. So by engagement in the service of the Lord, the designative disqualifications are removed, and as pure souls, they become eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. We all want to go back to Godhead. See, the Lord, his purpose is very important. The fallen girls under the clutches of Bhaumashara, they sincerely prayed to the Lord for their deliverance, right? So the Lord used to live with his 16,108 wives constantly. he expanded himself into 16,108 plenary portions. Each and every one of them was the Lord himself without deviation from the original personality. We cannot expand, no. We cannot expand in one house, one room, in the next room, in the third room. We will be in, if we are one place, we are there. We cannot be in the other room. Kṛṣṇa can be there in different rooms at the same time. The Shruti mantra affirms the Lord can expand himself into many. As husband of so many wives, he pleased them with all presentations, even at a costly endeavor. What was that costly endeavor? He brought the Parijata plant from heaven and implanted it in the place of Satyabhama, one of the principal queens. If therefore anyone desires the Lord to become one's husband, the Lord fulfills such desires. See, in this pastime, 16 or 100 years when he has expanded. So Narada Muni went, how come he is there? 16 he is there pleasing everyone so easily. So he was going to each one of each room. First room he went, he saw Kṛṣṇa doing some activity. Second room he was doing pleasing his wife. So he third room, so like that, different activities in different rooms, and he was there in each room. So he had expanded himself. Narada Muni then got convinced. These are plenary portions. Each and every was the Lord himself without deviation. Therefore, Shruti mantra affirms the Lord can expand himself into many. As husband of so many wives, he pleased them with all presentations, even at a costly endeavor. That's what it is, Parijata flower from heavens for Satyabhama. See the 31st verse. When the ladies of the capital, Hastinapura, were greeting him and talking in this way, the Lord, smiling, accepted their good greetings, and casting the grace of his glance over them, he departed from the city. All the ladies, they were on the top of the roof of the houses, and they were seeing, because Kṛṣṇa is leaving for Dvārakā from Hastinapura. And he had a very, very nice smile, accepting their greetings. The 32nd verse, Maharaj Yudhishthira, although no one's enemy, engaged 4 divisions of defense: horse, elephant, chariot, and army to accompany Lord Kṛṣṇa, the enemy of the Asuras, demons. Maharaj did this because of the enemy and also out of affection for the Lord. It says, Prabhu, natural defense measures are horses and elephants combined with chariots and men. Go to 33rd verse. See, out of profound affection for Lord Kṛṣṇa, the Pandavas, who were of the Kuru dynasty, accompanied him to considerable distance to see him off. See how much separation they might be feeling, no? Now Kṛṣṇa is leaving Hastinapura and is going to Dvārakā, and they were all along, he was all along with the Pandavas. Now when he is moving, they are also moving along with him. They didn't move just to a certain extent to some gate or the palace, or no. They moved to very long distance because they couldn't bear the separation. They were overwhelmed with the thought of future separation. The Lord, however, persuaded them to return home. He said, no, please go home. And he proceeded towards Dvārakā with his dear companions. 34th and 35th, the next 2 verses. O Shaunaka, the Lord then proceeded towards Kurujangala, Panchala, Shurasena, the land on the bank of the river Yamuna, Brahmavarta, Kurukshetra, Matsya, Saraswata, the province of the desert and the land of scanty water. After crossing these provinces, gradually reached the Sovira and Ahabira provinces. Then west of these reached Dvārakā at last. This just seems just like we are in going in a train. Maybe it's from in Gujarat, from one place to another, and reaching Dvārakā at last. So different places, we see the stations, right? So the provinces passed over by the Lord in those days were differently named. But the direction given is sufficient to indicate that he traveled through Delhi, Punjab, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Saurashtra, and Gujarat, and at last reached his home province at Dvārakā. Prabhupada knows, no, where is this place, and all. He immediately gives the names. We did not gain any profit simply by researching the provinces of those days up to now. But it appears that the desert of Rajasthan, province of scanty water like Madhya Pradesh, was present even 5,000 years ago. So the theory of soil experts that the desert developed in recent years is not supported by the statements of Bhagavatam. We may leave the matter for expert geologists to research, because the changing universe has different phases of geological development. We are satisfied the Lord has now reached his own province, Dvārakā Dham ki jai, and from the Kuru provinces. Now, Kurukshetra continues to exist since the Vedic age. And it is sheer foolishness when interpreters ignore or deny the existence of Kurukshetra. Now we come to the last verse. Tatra tatra tatratyer hari pratyu yatharhanah sayam veje disham paschat gavishtogam gatastada. On his journey through these provinces, he was welcomed, worshipped, and given various presentations. See, this is what happens when we do the Rath Yatra and everything. So it's coming, different places they stop, and the people give their offerings. It's welcoming, right? Same thing, it's followed from Bhagavatam. So in the evening, in all places, Lord suspended his journey to perform evening rites. And this was regularly observed after sunset. See, this purport is very wonderful to understand. And Kṛṣṇa Prabhupada has given nothing more to add in this. I just read the purport. Please hear it very carefully. See, it is said here that the Lord observed the religious principles regularly while he was on his journey. Even while traveling, he used to do all the religious activities. So there are certain philosophical speculations that even the Lord is under the obligations of fruitive action. But actually, this is not the case. He does not depend on the action of any good or bad work. Since the Lord is absolute, everything done by him is good for everyone. But when he descends to this earth, he acts for the protection of the devotees and for the annihilation of the impious non-devotees. This from Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushyatam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge. Although he has no obligatory duty, still he does everything so that others may follow. Why Kṛṣṇa follows? He went to Gurukula, he learned Shastras and everything. He knows everything. But by following, if the leader does everything, everybody will follow. So for that purpose, he was doing it. So this is the way of factual teaching. If anybody has to see the teachers in the schools and all, if they have to teach, they have to learn first, right? That then only they can follow. So that is the way of factual teaching. One must act properly himself and teach the same to others. Otherwise, no one will accept one's blind teaching. This is very important. One must read, research, and understand Prabhupada's purpose and teach the same to others as it is. Don't misinterpret. That's why Prabhupada gives Bhagavad Gita as it is. Even Bhagavatam, anything. You should not misinterpret the purpose, whatever Prabhupada has given. Give as it is. Otherwise, no one will accept blind teaching. But for entertainment, people do so many things. So people, because for a lot of programs, in the Bhagavad Sattas and so many things are going on, people sit and they like when it is for their liking, like an entertainment. But anything, if it is said very powerful, very important, they may not agree. Because it is not to their liking. So Bhagavatam Bhagavad is not as per your liking. It is a must. You must hear that. It's a fact. So he is self-sufficient, yet he acts according to the rulings of the revealed scriptures in order to teach us the process. If he does not do so, now if Kṛṣṇa does not do so, the common man may go wrong. But in the advanced stage, when one can understand the transcendental nature of the Lord, one does not try to imitate him. This is not possible. We cannot imitate Kṛṣṇa. We had 16,100 wives. One wife is enough for us. Correct? We cannot manage. He's well. So we can imitate. The Lord in human society, he does what is the duty for everyone. But sometimes he does something extraordinary and not to be imitated by the living being. This is very important. His acts of evening prayer, as stated herein, must be followed by the living being. But it's not possible to follow his mountain lifting or dancing with the gopis. What a wonderful Prabhu stated. These acts of evening praise, Prabhu, he prays. No, that's why, our homes, elderly people, they say, by night Sandhya, you should go home, wash your feet, take your bath, right? Then you do the prayers, evening prayers. That's what is coming from Kṛṣṇa. So one cannot imitate the sun, which can exhaust water even from a filthy place. Most powerful can do something which is all good. But our imitation of such acts will put us into endless difficulty. Therefore, in all actions, the experienced guide, the spiritual master, who is the manifested mercy of the Lord, should always be consulted, and the path of progress will be assured. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thy Gaur Premanande Hari Gaur. So thank you very much, Mataji, for giving me this opportunity. Hare Krishna. I'll stop here. Vancha kalpatarubhya